A recent survey says 42% of employees are already using AI and 30% of those are using it in secret. So if you're using or planning to use AI at work, hopefully not in secret, here are 3 important questions you need to ask to avoid some potentially serious problems. And no, I'm not talking about people shaming you for using M-dashes on social media. I mean real problems that can arise from using AI at work without understanding a few key things about it. The 3 questions are: what kind of AI model is it? What data was it trained on, and where is it hosted? Now, before we get into this, there is one important thing to mention. Even though we call it artificial intelligence, no current AI model or system is actually aware of what it's doing. Large language models, LLMs like ChatGPT or Gemini, might look like they are thinking. They might even describe how they think, but they don't. If you peel away all the layers at the core of any LLM or actually any AI model, you will find an algorithm predicting the most common answers to your specific question. However, you don't need AI models to be aware or to understand what they are doing to be as good as or better than people at certain difficult tasks. But you do need to know how to tell which tasks you can trust an AI model with and which ones you should double check. And this brings us to our first question. What kind of AI model are you using? Right now, there are 2 main categories of AI models. Specialized models that are trained to solve very specific problems like handwriting recognition, playing Go, or reading X-rays, and general purpose models like ChatGPT, Gemini, and others. These are usually models that mimic the way people think and speak and are able to handle a variety of tasks. The main differences between them are their levels of accuracy and reliability. Specialized models are trained on labeled datasets, meaning they can verify if they produce the correct output for a specific input. For example, a model will be given 1000 different images and told that each of them represents the letter A, or 10,000 X-rays that are associated with the medical diagnostic. In other cases, when there is not enough data for training, the model can generate this data as long as it has a set of rules that it can use to self-evaluate its outputs without human input. For example, the AlphaGo Zero model learned how to beat the highest ranking Go players in the world without any examples of human games, just by playing billions of matches against itself. As a result, with proper training, these models can become very accurate and reliable at predicting the correct results. Generative models like LLMs also make predictions, but since there are many ways in which you can communicate the same concept or idea, it's impossible to create the validation rules that can determine if their output is flawed. So even if engineers have designed some very clever techniques for training and learning, by design you are trading accuracy and reliability for the ability to use them for a variety of tasks. Does this mean that if you use a specialized model, you are much more likely to get reliable results, or that you cannot count on a generative AI model for important decisions? It depends on the answer to our second question. What data was the AI model trained on? This is important because the data that was used to train the model will be reflected in the output. First, all models will reproduce and amplify the biases that exist in their training data. For example, some AI tools for diagnosing skin cancer were found to be less accurate for people with darker skin because the training data was mostly from white patients. A while ago, Amazon's AI recruiting tool showed bias against women by downgrading resumes that included the word women's. Or in one study, a biased AI assistant was able to influence the way students argued their points in essays. And second, the data the AI model was trained on has to include enough information on the topic you want to use it for. Therefore, before relying on an AI model for important tasks or decisions, you need to make sure the data it was trained on fits your specific use case, and if you are using a generative model, you should also put safeguards in place to account for and mitigate the impact of hallucinations. And the last question is, where is the model hosted? OpenAI is now fighting a court order to preserve all ChatGPT user logs, including deleted and sensitive chats from paying users, because news organizations are suing the AI company, accusing it of destroying evidence. Also, a study published just last month proved that some models can reproduce almost half of a Harry Potter book, which can only be explained if that book was used for training, and which means under certain circumstances, training data could be revealed. And unless you have a clear agreement saying otherwise, your prompts and interactions will likely be used as training data. So unless you're using a local model on your own infrastructure, be aware that anything you load into it, questions, documents, personal data, or business data, could potentially be accessible to someone else, like a legal team or another user. Thanks for watching so far. This is a complex topic, so I had to summarize and simplify a lot, but I will include some links in the post if you want to read more about this concept. As usual, let me know if you found this video useful or if you have any comments.